Hey there, everybody. I am still looking kind of presentable. That's nice. This is way out there, though, huh? Whew. Ah, it's starting to feel like a real spring. Things are starting to bud. We are seeing a whole bunch of plants wake up, so I'm probably going to be um, discontinuing the spring shipping this week. So if you've been holding out and are just dying to get a plant from us, place your order. No pressure. No no FOMO. No no like serious deadline. We'll have them again in the fall, which is my preferred time to plant things. But that being said, I did order in some other plants. So let's take a look at what's growing on. We're looking at a dappled willow. This is the tricolor. This would be the Hakuro Nishiki tricolor, kind of like my pupper. Who's a good boy? Who is completely ignoring his dad? Okay, be like that. Just next to it, we have one of the service berries, the amelanchiers. And you can see they are budding up pretty nicely. I'm hoping that with a little bit of sunnier weather, you can untwist some branches real quick. But I'm hoping that with a little bit of sunnier weather than we got last year, that we'll have a little bit more chance for more vigorous growth and see a little bit more return. I genuinely can't remember what this is, but it's going hard. We'll see. We'll see what it turns into. Maybe one of you lovely folks can pinpoint it more accurately. It must be doing well or something because I've got more of it coming up. It could be just a volunteer, but that's all right. Still no asparagus popping up, but the lingonberries are looking pretty happy. And we have a whole lot of buds on this Asian pear. Now, as I come around this, I will say there are some spots of concern. We have a little guy just kind of napping in there. Look at him. Just a little bug. They could be there. It's fine. I've seen a little bit of browse on this. You can see there's been a little bit of deer browse, but overall, not too bad. A little bit, but like we've discussed in prior videos, this is just a chance for the deer to influence our pruning decisions, and it'll allow more growth hormones to help that whole branch fill in. The sorrel just below it is starting to pop up, as is some of the comfrey. And so that's pretty exciting. Let's go take a look at something else. This cutleaf echinacea that a wonderful, lovely person gave us is coming back strong. And I spent a good chunk of time last year taking the seed pods and just kind of scattering them everywhere that I could and crumbling up the seed heads. You can see one of the older ones still hanging out. You know, you got to leave some for the birds so that they can have a say in the way that your gardens progress, because they're going to know what it is that they want. They're going to spread it in places where they congregate. We have a whole bunch of black lace elder, and I am admittedly a little nervous to pull some of them up, but this one down here is starting to leaf out. I have a few others in here. This one, you can see that one's buried pretty low, but we have a handful that are putting out some new growth, which is super encouraging. I didn't do a whole lot differently than I did the year prior, but I'm glad to have a little bit of success knowing that this can be a precocious propagator. We have a whole mess of Rose of Sharon that I have stuck in the ground. And this was a couple of weeks ago when our neighbor had donated those. I'll see if I can link to the video where I talked about that a little bit. But with no treatment, just jamming them in the ground, we're starting to see those little bits of growth coming up and through, and I'm very excited. The ones that are in a bucket with some willow cuttings are also leafing out pretty nicely. They've been in a warmer space than just in the soil, and so they are a little further ahead than these guys, but promising, exciting, and promising. We're getting little bits of Monarda popping up. Some of our spring bulbs are coming together. Some of them are being nibbled away by someone who discovered that they are not all that tasty. And some of our rhubarbs are popping up, which always weird to see alien brains erupting from the ground, but super fun and exciting. Um, Nicole's actually never eaten rhubarb, so I think this year, instead of sending it to people who bake with it and are looking for more than what they can reasonably grow themselves, I think this year the rhubarb will be for us, and we'll try a couple of recipes. So if you've got a delicious rhubarb recipe, whether it's rhubarb by itself or rhubarb strawberry or rhubarb and another fruit, vegetable, or herb, uh, link a recipe or I guess comment it so that others can try it too. That would be cool. It would be fun to kind of have a few recipes. There's theoretically a whole bunch of the anise hyssop that will be coming up from here at some point. It's probably still a little early for them though. But our garlics from last year coming up strong. I'll be looking forward to these coming in and getting to harvest even more. I found a ton of honey from back when we were still keeping bees. And so I've been fermenting the honey in garlic, and it's so delicious. The Nanking cherries over on the berm looking pretty loaded for bear. This is not the most advanced one that I have, and by advanced I mean it's one of the younger ones, but it's growing pretty vigorously, and I'm very pleased by how hard it is trying. Similarly, this spice bush, it's a Lindera benzoin, is coming along. It looked like it had died several years ago, and we have a whole flush of growth. The deer have definitely come and nicked off the growing tips, so they might be promoting some additional bushiness, trying to get it to sprout even more shoots and main stems. We'll see how that progresses for this year. This apple has been the one that has not performed well. It is basically my sacrifice apple. This is the one that the Japanese beetles have been attacking non-stop since we planted it. But you know, it kind of keeled over in the snow. We'll I hate removing trees if I don't have to. It's still got roots in the ground, so maybe it's still pumping out some sugars. It's probably on its way out. Um, it's the sort of thing where I'm half tempted to just kind of leave it and see what it does. And if it starts doing well, maybe I'll graft some other ones onto this structure or cut it back. But if it starts declining rapidly, I'll probably just remove it. Uh, you know, replace it with another apple. Hopefully, one that is reported to be less attractive to the Japanese beetles. That would be cool. The Wolf River, just behind it, right there. Zoom in a little bit. That was an aggressive zoom. Sorry for that. This guy is doing great. It looks like the snow load didn't impact it at all. Um, the angles on those branches are, in my own totally unprofessional opinion, pretty rock solid. These are near 90-degree angles from the trunk, which means that they can flex without having a huge amount of strain on a tighter angle. So the buds are coming in nicely. I apologize for all the leaf crunching, but we have a whole bunch of spurs that look pretty happy. We're starting to get leaf buds out on some of them, and I am crossing my fingers for a pretty good yield this year. Fingers crossed. But you can see that once you get a little in, so we have a little bit of damage here and a little bit of damage on some of the outer extremities. But once you get to the interior of the tree, it appears as though the pruning techniques and the structure and the way that we've organized these branches has really helped to keep the inner part of the tree safe from any kind of heavier deer browse. So it might be worth taking a look at for yourself. But look at that. It's coming along. I'm really, fingers crossed, really hopeful for it. We have some fresh growth coming in on our yellow raspberries. This cultivar is called Anne, but we got fall gold in as well. Just a few rooted cuttings, but that's enough to start with. And as they grow, this one clearly a red raspberry as opposed to the yellow raspberries. I think it's so neat that you can kind of tell relatively easily and comfortably whether it's a yellow or a red raspberry by the tone of the bark on it. The red ones have, you know, a browner, more red brown, whereas these are closer to the yellow side of the color spectrum. So, fun stuff. I think it's super exciting to get more familiar with the plants as I grow to recognize them and their habits and their patterns. Could the other stuff up in the other garden be curly dock or some kind of dock that I was having trouble recognizing? Food, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Got a few members of the garden aeration crew working hard. This is why I don't plant peas or beans very early, because they tend to like those. And they'll dig them up and eat them on me. But everybody's doing pretty well. We lost 2 ducks earlier this year, which always a sad event, but given our numbers and what we are working with, I'm pretty proud of these guys and girls. Though I am kind of looking forward to reducing the number of the flock a little bit. Up in here, I'm in the process of adding 2 more garden beds. This one is new, and the one to the left of it is new. It's so new that I haven't even started transitioning away from the lawn on its upslope side. But we had some punky logs from a few years ago, so there's some definitely decayed woody debris throughout underneath all of them. And while it might not support the greatest amount of stuff. You can see down in here, there's still a log that is partially exposed. It wasn't the other day, but it's probably those ducks doing their thing and stomping around and having a good old time. So we'll let them continue working these. I'll try to get these planted with something that has a shallow rooting system, but we'll build this up with more and more compost as the season progresses, and hope to transition it into something really productive this year or next. Right here is what remains of the elderberry that I left for the ducks. I was foolish and did not protect it from them, and they have gone and stripped every bit of bark from a medicinal plant I had growing just for them. Every single stem just denuded completely all the way around. I don't know if they were bored or if they were looking for some medicine in the middle of winter, but they have definitely done a number on these. Hopefully not to the point that it decides not to come back. I don't really think that that's going to be the case. This elderberry is several years old and pretty well established and has a whole lot more light access than it used to. Probably because of all these branches that came down off of the tree that I'm standing under. So, had we not taken the cuttings that we did, this might have uprooted it or damaged it in a way that is even less beneficial to us, but it didn't. So, we'll see if it comes back, and when it comes back, how hard it does. Here, I got some plants today. These were ones that I had ordered a few months ago. These came in from Fedco. So this is brand new to me high bush cranberry. I'll add the Latin in after I have remembered it. I'm not going to say it right now because I genuinely don't. And then I also got another variety of elderberry. This one is Mattawamkeag, which a lovely person here on the channel had informed me is the most indigenous, or one of the most indigenous to Maine. So I'm very excited to have it here, and should I be successful with it, I'll try to pay it back to the First Nations people who have been cultivating this particular variety of elderberry. So more on that as it unfolds. But we have cranberry, elderberry, brush pile, another cranberry. And then these are some of the cuttings that we stuck from last year's elder. That's the one that we pulled from the duck yard that I just showed you, with our little 4-tine ground fork. And so yeah, those should be coming along pretty well. I have a handful of others back along this berm that is nearly indistinguishable at this point. We're still firmly in cleanup mode, but I'm hoping to have a little help on that in the next couple of days, over the next couple of days. And then there is our last little Mattawamkeag, in case anyone is curious about how that's spelled. Here you go. Bam. I have a problem, everybody. I get new plants in, and whenever I know that it is something that can take from cuttings, I have a really bad habit of planting the new plant and taking cuttings and just seeing if I can get it to propagate. It's not that I'm hurting for money. It's just the excitement of getting to propagate more and more new plants. So yeah, it's an addiction, but it's probably the best one I've ever had, if I'm being honest with you all, and I generally am. So this is just a little snippet of what's going on. I'll once I have more of the cleanup back there done, I've started, but running a chainsaw for hours by yourself and having to stop and lug and haul and sharpen and refuel, and it's one of those things where it's way more fun and it's way more doable when you have help or even just company. So I will hopefully have some updates regarding all of those logs and tree bits and brush and the rest of this tree litter that is kicking around. You can be sure that we're going to be doing some biochar sessions um, with folks and seeing what else we can do. But yeah, it's starting to feel like spring. We're doing gardening projects at the library as well. If you have the inclination, see if your local library is doing a garden this year and see what you can do to pitch in. They are libraries, that is, are, I think, an expression of our highest selves and our best selves. So I encourage you all to go pitch in and see what you can do for your local library. But that's going to do it for now. I think Nicole just got home. I haven't seen the dog for a minute, so uh, he's either inside welcoming her home the way I should be, or he is somewhere back in the woods digging holes or looking for some kind of pest. So, till next time, thanks for watching. Happy planting.